Off top, the Vikings defense has been wreaking havoc all season long. 3 weeks, does that count as all season long? And they're freaking out some of our best quarterbacks. So I decided to dive into tape and figure out what's going on. First of all, before we get into how Brian Flores is a mad scientist, respect the players. That's the one thing that jumped out to me. No, I'm not talking to you specifically, Charlie. Just generally, because I feel like the story around Brian Flores' defense is Brian Flores is amazing, which is true. But one of the things that I saw is there's a lot of players making plays. They're put in position to beat one-on-ones and those sorts of things. Like, I feel like Grenard might be having a career year just plowing people over. Van Ginkel the same way. He did that screen thing where he picked it off once, and he tried to do it again and almost got it in the San Francisco game. These guys are playing incredibly well, and Harrison Smith. But the DBs. So they lead the league in number of snaps and dime, which is 6 DBs on the field. And I think that's what allows them to do some of the more confusing things that they're doing to opposing defenses is they have a lot of DBs on the field, from Byron Jones to Cam Bynum to Stephon Gilmore and Harrison Smith, all these guys, and Martellus. They're the guys who are moving around, switching positions, making this very hard. So let's go to the dots. We got up here right now what looks like it's going to be a 0 blitz, max pressure.
Can you explain what they're playing the 49ers. Mm-hmm. What's it look like? The 49ers have 4 receivers on the field.
Okay.
And how are the Vikings set up to
So the 49ers have 4 guys extended, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, and the Vikings look like they are in punt block, essentially. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, and then the only people in the back are guys who are over top of those extended receivers looking like they're in man coverage 0. And so this is clearly signaling that they're going to blitz. Brian, you can play this footage. You see them send the all-out blitz. But look at 44, Martellus, the linebacker who was over the guard, essentially, in the A-gap. He shows to get the blocker and then steps back into where he knows the pass is going to be. Like, that's intelligence from the secondary and intelligence from the coaching staff. They forced that decision. Okay, so then they line up in what assume this is again, this is the next week. This isn't the next drive. This is the next week.
This is the week against C.J. Stroud and the Texans.
Next week against C.J. Stroud and the Texans. They're again looking like they are in 0. And notice that Gilmore, number 2, is the corner that's off. Murphy and Griffin are the guys that are off in coverage. And now we have everyone else on the line looking like punt block, ready to all-out blitz.
And this one looks, from the fan perspective, this looks more normal because the Texans formation is a lot tighter.
Yeah. The Texans formation is tighter. They have 2 backs in the backfield. So this is, again, they motioned that tight end back there, I believe, to get more protection. So this is already, we talk a lot about dictating to the offense. Mm-hmm. This is dictating to the offense what they're going to do. So they're assuming it's all-out blitz. You can play it, Brian. This time it's not. It's not all-out blitz. They drop into a cover 2, essentially, and only end up sending 3 rushers, a cover 2. They drop Van Ginkel into the short, kind of a spy zone. And the best part about that, to the point I was making earlier about all the DBs on the field, is veterans like Gilmore, he played the deep half. So when you're going to a game and you're anticipating who's going to play too high, if your corners are capable of playing the halves, and Smith and Martellus are linebackers, our safeties who are comfortable in the flats. One thing that I noticed about this team is they aren't perfect. Like, they make mistakes, and it seems like they have the autonomy to mix up who's going to be where and which coverage. And sometimes it leads to coverage busts, but the busts are never ones that they can that can be exploited, because either the pressure gets there or the mistake is somewhere low, like in the linebacker's position. But the cornerbacks playing deep half aren't going to play deep half as well as safeties who are playing deep half. And the safeties aren't going to play the flats as well as corners who have experience doing it. But the benefit that they gain from the element of surprise and confusion outweighs the loss of the coverage, because I can point out issues with their technique, but the technique doesn't matter. If you get the offensive line to treat it like it's an all-out blitz, then you only have 3 or 4 guys out into the route, and you have 7 or 8 guys in coverage. Your coverage doesn't have to be perfect. They're benefiting from that. And then on top of it, the 3-man or 4-man rush is working because, like I said at the beginning, guys like Grenard, Van Ginkel are playing their off and still getting pressure. And the show of the blitz creates one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. So even though it's 3 or 4 against 6 in protection. If that protection is sliding away, you still end up with a one-on-one that they can beat. It's getting the benefit of the blitz without the compromise of the coverage.
And so we have another play here.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more interesting because only 6 guys on the line of scrimmage this time.
These next 2 plays were plays that jumped out to me because they were really incredibly unique coverages.
With
this one,
Purdy in the gun.
Yeah, Purdy is in the gun. This one, I didn't know what to call it, so I kind of thinking one double robber because there are 2 robbers here. And I think what the concept here is, again, they crowd the line of scrimmage, not nearly as much as they did before, but it's enough that it's clear that this is going to be some sort of blitz. So once they do that, they then pop out their outside linebackers. They send the inside linebackers and get pressure, or at least the simulated pressure, what ends up with them just sending 4 rushers. So to do 2 D tackles blitz and the 2 inside guys blitz. So it's still only 4. The outside backers drop into what they would anticipate as the hot read areas, and then everyone else is in man coverage. You can play it. Watch 58 and 43. Van Ginkel and Grenard, they drop out. And the inside guys, Martellus, and they hit that right there and get the pressure and drop there. So you rarely, if ever, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen 2 robbers drop out. In 43 and 58, they show to get the attention, to get the matchup that they want, and then drop out into the areas where the hot is could work. This worked out for the 49ers. They got the first down, but it's the coverage, it's a tweak on the coverage that really complicated things for the 49ers. They weren't able to drop back and see 2 guys run up the middle. All right, I'm going to hot read. If they're sending our 2 inside backers and the tackles are coming, I'm going to get rid of this quickly. And then you look up to the zones where you would normally get rid of it, and there are 2 outside linebackers waiting for you in tight man coverage.
It's explaining Brock Purdy going up to Brian Flores saying the scheme is crazy when it's a coverage that I'm sure he's never seen before.
Yep, and this is, again,
empty backfield.
Purdy. Yeah, it's empty backfield, and this was the coverage there was another coverage that I had never seen before that I thought was super creative. And I think they only actually fully rush the outside backers. It's only 2 guys rushing here. The 52, who's kind of lined up at defensive tackle right now, he ends up playing like a spy, essentially, on Purdy, which they did a couple other times. And this is, again, kind of a double robber, but it's a deep robber. So you get 22, Smith, and Bynum 24. They look like they're going to play deep half, but they step up to about where the hashes are, and they are free, with Martellus playing the middle safety and everyone else in tight man coverage. They only rush 2 on the outside, and 52 is essentially just a spy. You got a question?
No, yeah, and this is a totally different look. Yeah. This is not crowding the line of scrimmage. This is a much more traditional, like, you're going to pick your play in Madden, and it's going to look like this, and the X's and O's back there.
Right. This gives you the perception, I think, that we're going to play some sort of soft zone. Mm-hmm. The last thing I'll say about this particular game plan, when you think of the 49ers, you think of where they want to attack the field, the middle.
Yes.
And he had all these different unique ways to create pressure up the middle without sending more than 4, and also create extra coverage in the middle. He was going to make them, it's the old Belichick thing, going to make you beat us left-handed, but it's not about taking away a specific player. It's about taking away or at least complicating the part of the field that you want to attack. So, yeah, go ahead and watch this again or let this roll. And you watch the safeties looking like they're playing deep half, but it's really man. It's a cover 2 look, and they drop in, and those safeties step in and play kind of like a robber, essentially. And if I was Brock Purdy, I would be kind of freaked out too, because there's nowhere to throw. If it's tight man coverage, you have a deep middle safety and 2 guys hanging out at the sticks, taking away the part of the field where you throw most of your anticipation throws. It's going to be a problem. This ended up being a fumble that the spy went and caught, and it was one of a few turnovers.
For the audience, you want to explain what a robber is? Because it seems to be central of what Flores is.
All right, so if you think of a free safety, that's essentially what a robber is. It's a free safety, but we normally think of the free safety as a deep middle free safety. These guys, the zones that they are taking are kind of high hook zones, so it's between the numbers and the hashes, 10 to 12 yards down the field. The previous one, they were very low in a similar position, but they were free essentially, but they did not have deep middle responsibilities. So all the corners are playing outside leverage, trying to force them, which makes your job a lot easier because you know that something's taken away for you. You can lean on the outside and you have two safeties in the inside waiting for you. And the thing that's also really impressive is they don't rely on one or two things. I didn't want to crowd this segment with all the unique things that they did. Right. I picked out the most interesting things, but they have so many different looks, and it feels to me that these are veteran guys who Brian Flores trusts, and they understand that there's so many jobs that need to be done on this play. Who does it? It doesn't matter. Just make sure that someone gets to the flat, someone gets to the half, someone gets deep middle in plays like Tampa, and they're rotating these coverages and disguising them in a way that's creating chaos for the opponents. And again, it creates chaos for them too because there are a couple blown coverages, but no one's made them pay for these blown coverages yet because they also have good players. So yeah, it's been fun to watch. It was really fun. I wanted to knock this out in a couple hours this morning, but I watched them for 4 hours because it was just so cool.
And this scheme, you talk often how there are not that many new coverages, not that many new defenses. This is genuinely different, what Flores is doing and bringing to this team.
It feels different to me. So I won't say – so actually the blitz and bluff stuff, it's not new. It's something that my rookie year we did it a bunch, where you show blitz and you either go zero or you bluff. You show the blitz and you bluff into, we would do cover 3. They're bluffing into a cover 2, which is looks like a Tampa 2, which is, it's fine. It's cool. But I think those extra robbers, that's interesting and new and different. But it's essentially, it's an offshoot of a coverage that we've had before. I think what they're doing that is special is they are providing you with the problem that's hard for you to figure out. And then when you figure out what the problem is, they already have the answers. So we're going to show a blitz. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you're going to adjust to that blitz by getting it out quick to this particular area, we're going to actually not blitz, but show the blitz, simulate the pressure, and drop people into those spots. And it just feels like it's like that one step ahead type of defense is anticipating your response to what we're going to do, and then we respond to that. And then when you are completely adjusted to that one, we're not even running that anymore. We're going to run an inverted cover 2, or we're going to run a lot of their coverages, particularly on third down, seem like, or specifically their blitzes seem like they're more of a palms or a read, which is a coverage that can be cover 4 or can be cover 2 based on how the number 2 receiver reacts. And that's a tough thing to attack when you're not exactly sure what you're going to be seeing. And then up front, they're doing these loops and pressures and simulated pressures that are creating matchups that when you have 3 guys on one side of the line blocking one guy, and then you have 3 guys on the other side of the line all in one-on-ones, you have 2 guys who are free to block someone, but they don't know where to go because they're confused by the look that we're given. Was that too confusing?
No, not at all. I have several follow-up questions.
All right, cool. I love it. This is the best part.
Okay. First one. You talk about how Brian Flores' defense has been one of the stories of the season. That is absolutely true. There's a commonality, though, between the way that this defense is being covered and the way that some of the offenses that have broken out have been covered. All we talked about after the Saints offensive explosion was Clint Kubiak. Look, he has guys in motion. We don't know how to defend this. This was the same thing with McDaniel last year. And now Flores is giving defensive looks where guys are moving and they don't know. Offenses are having more difficulty reading what the defense is going to do. Is that a real thing with this? And why doesn't everyone do it?
All right. So I think there's 2 levels to that question. It's first, how is Flores responding to the motion and is the movement on their side? So there's not as much movement from the defensive side from Flores' team as you might think. It's more about them being comfortable with whatever position that they're going to end up in. So I think having a veteran unit who understands the complete defense is what Flores is benefiting from. So oftentimes the motion forces you to adjust because your job has now changed. We set our defense on the strength of the formation. So if it's a sky zone, essentially, we're going to drop down. The strong safety is going to drop down to the weak side of the formation. If you flip the weak and the strong, then we have to send someone else down, and that's just an extra complication. If you're strong and free safety both know how to do those, then it doesn't matter if you flip the formation. And if your corners know how to do that also, if you motion a guy all the way over, your corner can then become the sky defender. So you benefit from that where the adjustments don't actually impact you. Most of the time, I think coaches don't add all that stuff because it's extra complications and extra time of preparation that you're going to use, and it's another layer that could cause a penalty or mess you up.
Yeah.
We're going to practice this complicated shift because we think it's going to give us an advantage, but we end up with a 5-yard loss. On the other side of the ball, on defense, you don't do too much moving because if you get a little bit out of position, you could play for it. I mean, you could pay for it.
That's exactly the thing. Like I remember vividly reading about the 2001 Ravens, how they were in the same look at the beginning of every single play, and then they could go anywhere. So this is sort of the opposite of that, where you have 7 guys who could be moving before the snap. But the question to this is, the follow-up is like, to your point, they've been the story of the season. It's a 3-week season so far, and it's been an incredible surprise. But do you feel that this defense is sustainable for the whole season of like, no, offenses aren't going to catch up to this group because they're so talented and it's called so well, that this is something that will be an ongoing storyline? We're looking at week 12 and be like, this defense is killing people.
Yeah. I think it is sustainable. They're not going to kill everybody like they have. They've had some luck. Mm-hmm. They've had some tip interceptions and some fumbles and stuff that have helped them out, and their offense has been providing, at least last week, have been providing a lot of support, which also helps them on defense. I don't think they're going to be this good all year long, but I do think they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league because it's not a result of scheme only.
Yeah.
You can catch up and figure out scheme. It's a result of scheme combined with a lot of really talented players and the flexibility that Stephon Gilmore, I know I'm a corner apologist, but Stephon Gilmore allows them to play man coverage and roll coverage away from him when he's covering the best receiver on the team. It's like there are very few cornerbacks or very few teams that have that type of luxury that we're not even going to double your best receiver. We're going to feel completely comfortable with leaving him in man coverage and rolling a zone over to the other side.
So coming off of that, there's another one of the other things about this is with all these people in motion, and that's been one of the things that's confusing people and confusing offenses, and they've been blitzing a lot on first and second downs. That's been one of the Flores blitzes so much. He's such an aggressive caller, but you looked it up and you said they're not actually blitzing that much on third downs, which makes me. The question is that a misconception? And how is this not that actually risk averse of a defense? Are they playing like? Is this a safe, stable setup?
And maybe this is early season. They played a couple of Shanahan systems. They want to stop the run on early downs, but they're blitzing aggressively as hell on first and second down. Like that's when they're blitzing. On third down, they're not. And it might be a result of down in distance because it's early in the season, but it's also, I think you're playing to the expectation. Is if you're blitzing a lot on first and second down, you blitzed a ton last year. You led the league in blitzing last year. Teams are coming in with plans for that blitz. So it's only smart to show the blitz on third down and then not actually blitz. Their point of blitzing on first down, I don't think, is to get sacks. I think the point is to kill the run and to put them in advantageous situations. But they haven't been. They're like bottom of the league as far as third down blitzes are concerned. But they're top of the league as far as overall blitzes is concerned is because they've weighted all their blitzes to first and second down to win those downs and get in position to do these kind of weird drop coverages that they're doing.
What's the theory behind that? Because I'm assuming they're getting a lot more third and longs than other teams because their defense, maybe the Steelers are right there with them, and then other teams. Is the theory on that just that you, by creating third and longs, you've essentially won anyway because you can be safer and still force a punt?
Yeah, most of the time, honestly, coaches like to blitz on third and long, third and 7+ because you don't want to give the offense time. The worst thing you want to do is give them time.
They want to throw the ball. Yeah.
But I think what they are trying to do is get the best of both worlds. So since they are considered a blitz-happy team, they show the blitz to one side, or they'll show double outside blitzes. You'll check to max coverage, to max protection, or you'll slide the line to one side or the other. And then we bring the blitz from the opposite side, or we bring the blitz right up the middle, which ends up creating these one-on-ones. So the best thing that you can ask for normally is a few one-on-ones, someone should win that within less than 2 seconds. Someone's going to break down. And so if they've created the one-on-ones, there is no reason to blitz.
Yeah.
If you can use a simulated pressure to dictate the protection and create a one-on-one matchup with the way their pass rushers are playing right now, then you've effectively have a drop 7 or drop 8 sometimes in one-on-ones. So you're getting the impact of blitzing. When people stop doing this max protection or stop sliding, Brian Flores will start blitzing again. He'll stop with the sims because the sims won't work anymore because no one is scared. That's why the sims work, is because we're like, all right, you're sending 6 or you're sending 5 or you're sending 7. All right, so we have to make sure that all these guys are accounted for. And while you're standing there waiting for one guy to blitz, we have a one-on-one matchup with Grenard right there, who's going to plow through your tight end that you've kept in to block him, while all your big offensive linemen are standing there with their arms up looking for somebody else but not touching anybody.
Do you expect other teams to copy this scheme?
No. I don't think that you can. I guess I'd have to look around the league at the rosters, but you need a lot of veteran safeties.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, they lead the league in nickels, and that's really the benefit, is they have safeties that they trust. And no one will copy this because coaches have huge egos. And I think that part of this, in reading what Brian Flores has had to say about it, is he's giving some autonomy to these players to make decisions and make adjustments. And he's putting out the framework, which kind of reminds me of how we used to talk about the triangle offense. It's more of an idea than it is a play, where there's an idea, like we need someone here, 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 and here. Who it is, how they get there, I don't care. Mix it up, but this is what we need. And I don't know that too many defensive coordinators have practiced that or have the confidence in their players to allow them to have that latitude.
And then the last thing I'd ask is, everything is going to have a weakness. Everything's about trade-offs.
Yeah.
What's the trade-off with this defense?
I think the trade-off is the risk. Like I mentioned, there are
the big plays in theory.
They're blown coverages. They do blow them sometimes. I've seen more than I would have expected considering how well they played. So when they pick up the blitz and when people stop reacting to them or stop preparing for them as if they're this crazy blitz-happy team on third downs, then they'll be able to make them pay, and they'll need to switch back to the other side, or when their players start blowing coverages. So one of the things about playing cover two, is you need to slow down, get a jam on the receivers. You don't want to get 2 receivers up on the safety quickly. They aren't, because they're doing all this rotation. No one's touching them. And so if they happen to guess right and max protect and run 2 on Gilmore, who's rotated back to an inverted cover 2, and they just run 2 guys right at him, it's impossible to cover them both. So it's a risk, but rather than doing that, they're more concerned about, oh God, they're going to send 8. Let's keep everybody in. And next thing you know, we've sent 4 and dropped 6 or dropped 7, and Gilmore is covered by plenty of support, and the quarterback's holding it. Then he tries to scramble, and it's over. Play the music?
Yeah.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
All right, welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. We are joined, as we are every Friday, by the great Mina Kimes. And, of course, you guys have already heard from Charlie. Vanilla Snack is still here. Hey, Mina.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Not much. Let's get into these games. I won't give you time to make fun of me.
I'd make fun of you.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's going to get made fun of again today.
Charlie picks on me, and he makes me uncomfortable. And Mina came in here acting like a cool kid from a high school movie. And
yeah, Mina's super chill today. I don't know.
Did you have a good day? What happened today? Why are you so...
I don't know. I do feel pretty relaxed today, oddly so.
You must have hung out with some nerds, and it made you feel cooler. That's what
I did.
Is.
I taped with Pablo and David Dennis Jr. earlier, so.
Nailed it.
You called in. We used Domonique as our athlete phone a friend.
Yep.
Okay, guys, should we do our game? What we do every week? Good game, guilty pleasure game. We got another awesome early season slate of a lot of fun matchups. Mina, you're up first. What's your good game of the week? The one you're really excited to dig into?
Well, it's a good game, but it's in some ways a little bit hard to talk about, which is Vikings-Packers, because we don't know as of this taping who is playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, right? So that obviously changes things very much. As good as Malik Willis has been playing, obviously Jordan Love is a better quarterback and completely changes the dynamic of that game. But regardless, I love this coaching matchup. It's funny, I put out a tweet this week, where I said, other than Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, is there a head coaching combo you would want right now more than Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores? And Packers fans chirped a little bit, which, I said, I'll give you Matt LaFleur, but like Jeff Hafley has not been tested, really. They've played, the Colts, the Titans, they had the Eagles week 1. This is a test. So I think we're about to learn a lot more about this Packers defense and how good they are and how good of a coach he is, because he's going up against one of the better offensive play callers. He's a head coach, obviously, in the NFL, and Kevin O'Connell.
I was hating on Hafley this offseason, so we'll see if Hafley can pull it off. But I was talking bad about his Boston College days because those numbers were not pretty. And that pick 6 last week was great. I loved it.
They are getting a lot of turnovers, and that would be, the formula for Sam Darnold, right, is to bait him into turning it over.
That pick 6 was not Jeff Hafley's. Right. He can't take credit for that. Like, Alexander was supposed to be a deep third, and he was like, you know what? That. I'm playing. I'm going to jump this and get a pick 6.
They are more aggressive, though, I will say.
How does this look if Malik Willis is playing quarterback against the Brian Flores defense? I'm not doing this to denigrate Malik Willis, who's far exceeded our expectations, who we weren't sure is an NFL quarterback, but he's still more limited.
You asked Mina, so go ahead, Mina.
Well, he is more limited. I do think, and maybe this can get us to the other side of the ball, the best, in order to defeat this Brian Flores defense, having a dominant run game is one way in which you can. Now, the Vikings have been excellent against the run, and the way they're doing that is really interesting, and the way they're getting to some of that on early downs. But, you would think this is San Francisco didn't have Christian McCaffrey when they played them. I do think that would have been really interesting to see. When I think about Domonique, when I think about everything that Flores is doing on defense, particularly on early downs, and I think about what would it take, the thing that comes to mind for me is either a really special quarterbacking performance or a dominant rushing attack.
Yeah, I was thinking this when you brought up this matchup, that I don't know that it's crazy to say that they're better off with Malik Willis. Like, I don't mean that at all. But I think that this situation is not as terrible because how simplified things will be with Malik Willis and the things that this offense offers. And so, like, some of the things that they're doing on early down, like, they're aggressive, they're blitzing a lot on early downs, and they're doing a lot of inverted cover too, which is essentially getting the safety into the box without giving up your too high looks. And they're doing some slants and stuff that, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a D lineman, but I see them putting them in position to make some plays. And all that stuff is fine and good, unless you see the option, which is where they get you out of position and get you outside in no man's land. So obviously they'd rather have Jordan Love. But if there was a week to slow play it and put the pressure on your defense and try not to make mistakes, because what we're seeing where we saw Stroud and Purdy most freaked out, it's on those like drop back, we have to read the defense. They don't ask Malik Willis to do that too much.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
And if they do ask him to do it, it's going to get ugly. So that defense better step up.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about whether or not this brand of defense has any weaknesses, right? Because what you're describing, and I believe what you described at the early part of this episode, is the things that they're doing, the combination of, it's funny because I'm jumping into this not knowing exactly how you put it,
That's
but
fine.
to my eye, the combination of the unique early down blitzes combined with the zone coverages that they're playing behind those blitzes. Okay, there you go. I tried to synthesize that or do a TLDR version. The net effect is that they are dictating to offenses, and they are taking away the core passing concepts that Shanahan offenses love, particularly over the middle of the field. Where you might be vulnerable is exactly, I think, what Domonique is describing, because in doing those things, you are not necessarily accounting for a dynamic quarterback rushing threat. And so, yeah, it is. Now I'm getting even more excited about the possibility of Malik Willis playing this team. I mean, the player that I've had in mind this entire time, Domonique, is like, okay, let me see this against Lamar Jackson, right? And who's a very different player. But I do think like it is actually going to be interesting to see that as well, because of everything that the linebackers are asked to do in terms of showing pressure, sometimes coming, sometimes dropping out. Okay, well, what if the quarterback takes off, right? Like that, it adds a different element that actually might expose, because every defense has vulnerabilities. Every time you do something, you are giving something up, and that might be the thing that they're giving up.
Right. I love it. You use almost exact terminology a couple different times. It was wonderful.
Sorry.
No, not sorry. No, not sorry. It's validation. I'm sitting in here with football neophytes, and they're looking at me all wide-eyed, and finally, a real ball guy on here with me.
How dare?
But don't you agree with that though? Like in terms of because there's no perfect defense.
Not
You're
only do I agree with
sacrificing
it,
something.
I said it.
Yeah, right. I meant
I absolutely.
What
agree
I meant less
right.
that exact point, and more like the concept of you can't do everything. There's always going to be something you're not doing.
One of the things that I think that they've done successfully, and not to retread all this stuff, but because of their blitz reputation, they use these sims, which gets the offense to react and put guys in one-on-ones, and they're only sending 4 and dropping 7, but the offense is reacting as if they're going with pressure, so they're getting the effect of a blitz with the coverage. Sooner or later, people are going to stop acting like Brian Flores is going to all-out blitz you every third down, and then that'll be the answer. But when that happens, I don't know.
That's the other thing I do like about Green Bay in this matchup. Not that I'm saying that they're going to take the better of it, but I'm sure what you described and what you just described now is that they've been able to confuse offensive line. And I think this is a trend we're seeing around the NFL is so many defensive lines are so much less static now that you see all these inexperienced offensive lines struggling with protections. This Packers offensive line, yes, they're young, but they are about as well coached as it gets right now, right? I mean, they're not the best, but I'm just saying they're very, very good. They have a coach who's very, very smart. And I'll be interested in seeing Domonique too, if they come in maybe better prepared for some of these simulated looks than what we have seen thus far.
You want to talk any more about this game, the other side of the ball, or did we do both sides?
Well, like I said, I think it's a real test for
that's right. Yeah. We talked about the test for the Packers and Sam Darnold. I mean, the test for Sam Darnold is tight game. Let's get him in a tight game, must throw tight game. Like that's right. I forgot Mina is one of the Sam Darnold people going around getting her victory lap right now.
Sympathizers.
Sympathizers.
Sympathizers is a great name. All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe this will be the tough game. We'll see Sam do his thing.
If I was Minnesota, I would run on him.
Yeah.
And they're really good at running. Aaron Jones looks fantastic.
Yeah. He looks like a pretty big upgrade from their backs last year. Guilty pleasure game, Mina.
It's an Aaron Jones revenge game too. Don't forget that. Okay. Hear me out. Broncos Jets.
I will not hear you. The Broncos defense is fun.
That's what I'm interested in because I actually think this Broncos defense might be good. And I kind of didn't like when I talked about this on my show, when Seattle played Denver week 1 and the Broncos pass rush was teeing off, I just wrote it off as like the Seahawks offensive line sucking. But that was my main takeaway from watching this team against Tampa. I was like, oh, this defense is actually extremely legit and the pass rush is good. And they do have a very good cornerback who can maybe take out Garrett Wilson. So I'm actually interested in seeing how they play on that side of the ball.
I like that. I want to get to my games.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
You're up.
Yeah, we should have led with this. Ravens, Bills.
You talked for like 20 minutes before Mina got on here. Everyone was starved for another voice to stop the.
I'm fine. Ravens, Bills, right? It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be
it's going to be a potential playoff matchup, all the implications that come along with it. Taron Johnson not being there is sad for me because he is probably, I don't know, one of the more unique players on that defense, one of the more important players on that defense, which I do think changes the way that this game plan is played. But I don't know. I feel like I've been heaping praise on the Bills since their run last year, and this is another opportunity for them to earn that respect. And then it's obviously the same questions about the Ravens offensive line going up against the Bills front that's pretty damn good. And and the Ravens defense trying to figure out how to eliminate these big plays. Fortunately, it feels like the Bills are not chasing the big play as much as they used to in the past, but they might this week.
If this game, Charlie, let me ask you a question. Because I'm pretty sure the Bills are favored by a decent amount. I don't know what the line is. If this game was 3 quarters long, would you take the Ravens?
That's a great question. I mean, that's after first half Josh last week. I'm really not sure.
That's fair point.
God, this Bills offense right now looks so clear, far and away the best in the NFL. Such a good offense for this moment. And it's just so unfair. It's like, okay, wait, so you have the best rushing attack, an incredibly good offensive line, a scheme that is perfectly attuned to what is happening in football, and you have an alien at quarterback? Like, what the heck? Yeah, I am pretty nervous about Baltimore on that side of the ball. I do think, however, this Ravens offense can do what we have not seen offenses do to the Bills yet, which is attack the spine of the defense, right? I mean, it's like, I feel like I've called trying to predict the Bills' injuries actually affecting them is like trying to catch a falling knife at this point. Like, it just,
Yeah.
But like, if there was a team built to attack these linebackers and their lack of, like, it would seem, in safeties, it would seem to be Baltimore. Like, the possibility exists for them to be successful on that side of the ball. I mean, I think if I'm them, I'm just bullying this one. Right? Similar to what we saw last week against Dallas, although the Bills' deep run defense is a lot better than the Cowboys. But I'm going super heavy, and I'm throwing out of those looks. I'm play actioning them over the middle of the field, and I'm running the football.
That's interesting because that should be the Ravens' default game plan. Like, no matter who, like, that's where you should start. And they stayed there last week, and it worked for them. Particularly when you go up against a team that worked for 3 quarters. Yeah, particularly when you go against a team that might be susceptible there. But that's the first step, is to establish that Ravens physical run and attack.
And that's what I was wondering, because like there has been a lack of explosiveness from the Ravens offense in certain parts. Like it still seems to have some of the same issues it's had in years past. And Mark Andrews is playing like 20% of the snaps. All of the Isaiah Likely hype from week 1 of being like, is this guy going to be a massive downfield threat? His target share has dwindled significantly. And that is a slight cause for concern, because it just seems like the same old team.
I think the passing game has really been hampered by the offensive line in a way, like because they're just having to keep guys in to help protect, and so they're not able to even send that many guys out on passing plays. And I will say this though, Buffalo does not blitz. This is a pretty heavy 4-man rush team. I do think this could be a big Lamar Jackson rushing game as well. Again, going back to the linebackers too, I wouldn't be surprised if they send 4 and he's just like, nah, especially because him and Josh both have this, but you definitely seen with him in gotta have it games, he is more likely to try to take over with his legs.
It's funny that we've ended up back here with the Ravens, and it's not because of Lamar, but it's because of the offensive line, where we have to develop and advance this passing attack. We did it last year, and now it's like we have to go back to a remedial passing attack and depend on our quarterback run, because we can't protect anymore. So it's funny, I guess.
I think we all can agree, no matter who loses this game, their fan base will be aggrieved on behalf of their quarterback on Twitter. Unfair treatment of both of them.
We're done with that. We have moved past that. That draft no longer matters. It's just we got Caitlin Clark in the WNBA now. We don't have to fight about
off-season. She's playing golf
Bills
now.
And Ravens fans, like, you guys both won, right? Like, we're not, I don't want to do that. Like, you both have awesome, credible quarterbacks. So.
You got to fight somebody, though.
Oh, yeah.
You got to fight somebody.
This is the fan bases that we'll be fighting.
This is the fight of our time. All right.
Do you want to go to your guilty pleasure game, Domonique?
Bengals against the Panthers. This is see, Mina, you didn't do a true guilty pleasure game. This is gross.
Yeah. No, but it rules.
This is gross football here. It's actually not that gross if you
elite offenses.
If you go off of last week alone, we're gonna have a shootout. But neither of these teams figure to be factors late in the year. But I was going to say we're going to get back against the wall, Burrow and the Bengals, but we just got it. It was fun to watch, and it was an L. We will find out, and we can move on from the Bryce conversation, but I think part of this was about how good the Panthers were, and what they looked like last week was like a team in a division. They look like a team that could compete in their division, which is before they look like a team that would hopefully win a game. So it'll be fun to see them matched up against another team that it's not good, but a team that's a serious outfit, I guess.
Well, this is your point of back against the wall, Burrow. If they win this week and the Ravens lose, both of those teams are 1-3 and they're playing each other next week. So yeah, it's a longer season.
Can't wait for that game.
Yeah, but the 3 teams 0-3 are making the playoffs in the last 30 years is sort of a false statistic given the extra week of the season and the extra playoff spot. So they're going to still be grinding to get back into this with a fourth place schedule.
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely didn't think about that when we were doing the 0-3 stuff. You're right. I mean, this Bengals defense is so bad, guys. Domonique and I recapped Monday Night Football, and I really wanted to give Jaden Daniels the praise he deserved. So I almost feel like I held back a little bit on grappling on the Bengals defense. But rewatching some of those plays, oh my God, they cannot rush the quarterback. I would not be surprised. First of all, it's an Andy Dalton revenge game. Do not overlook that. Sorry, I'm going to do that for every game. Point out the revenge game. This is a real one, though. I mean,
he's 2-1 against the Bengals.
If Andy Dalton is even 80% of what we saw last week, he will have no problem moving the ball in this defense. They are awful.
All right, I'm up. My good game. Honestly, my good game is kind of gross this week just because I'm not sure what to think about either of these teams, but they're both 2-1. The resurgent Philadelphia Eagles, who kind of are still gross. We're still not sure if Nick Sirianni is a competent NFL head coach. Yeah. We're not sure how good Jalen Hurts is. Their season was kind of saved by Saquon Barkley last week, who is excellent.
I mean, we did that all last week, but also the week prior, I feel like Saquon's got him. But yeah, I guess he's been their most effective offensive weapon, especially since
the defense saved them. Jalen
I was about to say, we're going to get I need to finish my point.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Jalen Carter was unbelievable. He had his best game as a pro. And they're playing the Bucs, who was everyone's darling team, resurgent Baker Mayfield. They kind of turned it into a pumpkin last week. And so we've got a pumpkin versus pumpkin good game here. But I'm pretty excited to see if the Eagles are actually going to continue their improvement. I'm not that excited about the Bucs, but the Eagles are the side of it that I'm most intrigued by.
It's the defense and the pass rush for me. If they can do that again, then I'll have a lot more confidence in everything about this team. That's been the formula for the Eagles for the past, I don't know, since the Carson Wentz days. It's dominate on the offensive line and the defensive line. And they stopped doing that and they started getting bad. The offensive line is still great. The defensive line has not been great. If they can be great again this week, that'll be 2 weeks back to back of great defensive line play. And I'll have a lot more confidence in them going forward. It doesn't change anything about how Jalen's played up until this point, but if it puts him in a position where you don't have to ask him to be anything more than what he was.
No A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith also banged up. They're limited in their support of Jalen Hurts, who's been up and down.
Yeah, there's 2 things I'm curious about. One, kind of what you alluded to, which is whether or not the Eagles' defense is moving in the right direction, because they were really good last week. Vic Fangio rolls out this terrific game plan against knowing what the Saints are going to do. The Bucs offense has some similarities. Very bad run game, though. If the defense, again, plays good, if I'm an Eagles fan, I feel pretty good, especially, obviously, given where the Cowboys seem to be trending in that division. So that is something I want to see. And then I want to see if Todd Bowles can have his way with Hurts again, because Todd Bowles is probably the defensive coach who has terrorized Jalen Hurts the most in the 2 playoff games, right? And, the Hurts has looked better against the blitz this year, no doubt. But Bowles' pressures look a little bit different from what he's faced for the most part. So I think that there's a little bit of you have to slay your boogeyman for Jalen Hurts in this one because of who's on the other side of the field.
Yeah. The Hurts against the blitz stuff is interesting to me because he hasn't been as bad as he once was against the blitz, but I don't watch him and say that problem is solved. He
exactly.
Feels, it's just because you haven't fumbled it every time you got blitz doesn't mean you look comfortable or you look like you know where to go with the ball. It's still it's still a tough scene for Jalen Hurts if you look at all of last year up until this year. It's been rough.
That's definitely tough. Just looking back at the Bucs wins, they put up 37 points against the Commanders defense that's forced 3 punts this entire season. The Lions game, I don't know if that's an aberration.
That was a lot of Baker scramble action.
Yeah. And then they got, absolutely pounded by a Broncos team that we mostly think stinks. So it's
the Broncos defense is good though.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. What's next?
So my gross game is the game that I wanted to pick as my good game, but I respected the concept.
Okay.
I respected the concept, which is I think everyone wants to watch the most exciting player in the NFL play again this week, and that's Jaden Daniels. So I picked Commanders Cardinals because on the other side of this, Cliff Kingsbury revenge game, the most important revenge game out there.
And then versus Kyler.
It's a double revenge game because Kyler is getting revenge on Cliff Kingsbury, who's getting revenge on the Cardinals. I don't know how that'll work out, but the Cardinals offense has been fun. Also, Kyler seems to be reestablishing himself as one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And as far as wonky bad games go, this is about as fun of a matchup as you could ask for.
Yeah, I mean both defenses are pretty
abominations,
exploitable. I will say the Cardinals defense has actually been a little bit better than I thought. I certainly thought that watching the Detroit tape. I was like, oh, okay. They gave them a pretty hard time in that front that they get after the quarterback a little bit, but you can run on them. I think the Commanders are going to run the ball a lot in this one. I think Arizona is going to run the ball in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this is pretty high scoring as well, because I think both these offenses are better than both these defenses.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jaden Daniels. Here it's hard to call this game gross because we are on the cusp of stardom territory, and him putting together back-to-back games will be pretty exciting for us here in DC to have a real quarterback. And what?
We haven't punted in over a fortnight. I just wanted to think.
A fortnight.
A fortnight,
he says. Who would you take right now? Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels?
Jaden Daniels.
Woo!
Nah, Kyler Murray. Nah, Jaden Daniels. Can I have Marvin Harrison?
Terry McLaurin. No, I mean that's actually a great question because they're in that exciting tier where it's I don't exactly know how much to buy into their consistency.
I mean, watching Kyler throw is just it's hard not to choose him, but the Jaden Daniels deep balls from last week is tough too.
Right.
I don't know. I think the ceiling is higher on Jaden Daniels right now than it is for Kyler Murray, just because he's so young. So I think I'd go with Jaden.
The vibes are immaculate.
One good game, one big game, guys.
Agreed. I'm not saying he's better now. You said who would you take? I'm thinking that right now, the future for Jaden is unlimited.
No, I don't. I'm teasing. It is. I mean, we're always going to be predisposed to go with the mystery box. I feel like
he could be anything. He could be as good as Kyler Murray.
That's true. Kyler Murray's pretty good, and Mina is partial to Kyler Murray because he said happy birthday to him one time.
I like both of these quarterbacks. I actually think this is a pretty fun game. I don't think good defense will be played too. So
who do you take
in this game, or generally?
No, Kyler Murray? The question you asked us.
Oh, well, I would take Murray. I just haven't. I mean, I feel like there's just too much unknown right now with Daniels.
All right, guys, let's close with our survivor pool really quick. All of us lost last week. Shocker.
Well, it's a shocker that Mina and I lost. It's not a shocker that you lost. Again?
You had the Bucs last week. Mina, you can pick first. Your 3 picks.
Well, you're 0-3 in the Survivor League, Charlie. How is that even possible?
We're gonna shoot the moon.
Don't pretend like you want to be 0-3 now.
You were watching that Cowboys game with me. I was borderline my pants when the Cowboys were coming back. I was like, this is gonna mess up my plan. So Mina, you picked the Bills, Chargers, and Bucs. Anyone else is on the table?
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the Bengals here.
Ooh.
To not go 0-3. I just can't imagine them being 0-3.
Or to not be 0-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already 0-3.
Yeah.
All right, you're up, Domonique. You picked the Seahawks, Colts, and Bengals. Those teams are off the table.
Okay. I will go with the Texans versus Jags. That looks nice. Jags, they are near folded up territory. Cowboys versus Giants is attractive.
This is coming out after that has filmed.
So who cares? I mean, the people will know whether I'm right or wrong right now. Give me the Cowboys.
Okay, you got your
How
Cowboys.
about the Cowboys?
All right, I have picked the Bengals, Ravens, and Cowboys. Mina, you're not going to like this.
Uh-oh.
You're going to hate it.
Uh-oh.
Because this is a guaranteed loss for you.
Oh, no.
I'm taking the Seahawks on Monday Night Football.
The kiss of death.
Yeah, Charlie. Sad. Anyway. All right, Mina, thanks for joining us. Charlie, thanks for your stuff, I guess. What? What are you waving me off for? I'm sorry.
Aggressive.
I'm hungry and tired. Thanks, Mina. Thanks, great producers.
Guys.
I love you, Podville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.